Welcome back to our daily journey through World War II. 11 days ago, the world changed forever. We've watched the German blitzkrieg tear through Poland, but yesterday, we saw something truly remarkable, a desperate, courageous Polish counterattack. On this day, September 12, 1939, the German High Command unleashes a thunderous response, while the leaders of the Allied powers meet to make a fateful decision that will define the early years of the war. The Polish counteroffensive on the Bzura River had achieved a surprising, albeit temporary, success. It shocked the German High Command, including Hitler himself, who had been in the field visiting troops. The Poles had proven they were not a defeated enemy. But on September 12th, Germany prepared to deliver a hammer blow that would crush this defiance once and for all. General Walther von Brauchitsch, commander of the German army, swiftly rerouted divisions to contain and encircle the Polish forces. The German 10th Army, which had been advancing on Warsaw, and the 4th Army, which had been in the north, were now ordered to converge on the Polish armies in the Bzura pocket. The objective was clear, trap and annihilate the Polish resistance before it could pose a greater threat. The German response was not just on the ground. The Luftwaffe, the German Air Force, was brought into the battle in an overwhelming fashion. German dive bombers, the feared Stukas, turned the Polish advance into a nightmare. They acted as flying artillery, relentlessly bombing Polish positions and supply lines. The Poles, with their limited air cover and obsolete anti-aircraft guns, were virtually helpless against these coordinated, devastating attacks from the sky. This day marks a turning point in the battle, as the element of surprise was gone and the sheer, brutal might of the German war machine was now fully focused on crushing the Polish pocket, while the fate of Poland was being decided in a storm of steel and fire. The political leaders of the Allied powers met in Abbeville, France. This was the first meeting of the Supreme War Council, bringing together British Prime Minister Neville Chamberlain and French Premier Édouard Daladier, along with their top military commanders. The Polish ambassador was not invited. The world was waiting to see what their strategy would be. Would they launch a full-scale offensive on the Western Front to divert German forces and relieve their Polish ally? The answer, delivered on this day, was a clear and resounding no. The French and British military leaders argued that an immediate offensive against the fortified Siegfried Line would be a costly and bloody affair with little chance of success. They believed that time was on their side. They would build up their strength, establish a naval blockade, and wait for Germany to exhaust itself. The consensus was to maintain a defensive posture and not risk their forces in a direct confrontation. This decision would have monumental consequences. While it was based on a calculated, if flawed, long-term strategy, it sealed Poland's fate. The Polish armies fighting so desperately knew that no relief was coming from their allies. This meeting, on September 12th, confirmed the grim reality of what the world would later call the Phoney War. The conflict was no longer just a European affair. The United States, though officially neutral, was watching with growing alarm. On this day, President Franklin D. Roosevelt delivered an address to the American people from the White House. He declared that when peace has been broken anywhere, the peace of all countries everywhere is in danger. While he reiterated America's neutrality, he also made a crucial distinction. I can say that the United States will remain a neutral nation, but I cannot ask that every American remain neutral in thought as well. This statement was a turning point in American sentiment. Roosevelt was subtly shifting public opinion, acknowledging that while the nation could not formally join the war yet, the American people had a moral duty to choose a side. This speech laid the groundwork for future policies, such as the Lend-Lease Act, which would eventually provide crucial aid to the Allied powers. As German forces tightened the noose, the civilian population of Warsaw was living on a knife's edge. The city was under relentless aerial bombardment, with the Luftwaffe targeting not just military installations but also civilian infrastructure. On September 12th, the city authorities issued an urgent plea for all able-bodied men to report for military duty to bolster the city's defenses. Citizens of all ages, from children to the elderly, were mobilized to build barricades, dig anti-tank trenches, and fortify their neighborhoods. They were arming themselves with whatever they could find. This wasn't a military operation. It was a desperate act of communal survival and defiance. On this day, the true nature of total war was being demonstrated in the streets of Warsaw, as the line between soldier and civilian was completely erased. The events of September 12, 1939, tell a story of stark contrasts. The Poles fought with a tenacity that surprised the world, but their courage was met with overwhelming German force. And in the West, the Allied powers made a strategic choice to stay on the sidelines, a decision that would haunt them and shape the next 5 years of the conflict. Tomorrow, the noose around the Polish armies will tighten even further as the Battle of the Bzura reaches its grim climax. We'll also look at the growing diplomatic crisis in the Baltic states. Don't miss it. If you found this look back at history informative, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and let us know in the comments what you found most surprising about this day in the war. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow.